Hello, everyone. Me and Aidan switched spots for today's episode because he was so upset that the White Sox lost their series to the Phillies that he decided he didn't want to host anymore. So with that being said, welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia, and I am your host in training, Brayden. And today I'm filled with another full panel with my full usual people. To my left, we have Shane.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Shane. Next going down, we have Riley.
Hi.
Hello. And then usual over there.
Yeah, it's weird being on this side, but I'm glad to be back on the panel this week.
I'm glad that you're here. Okay, with that being said, our first thing to talk about is the Phillies. The Phillies sweep consecutive series. The 7 straight wins versus the Rockies and the White Sox, and Reds lost 8-1, unfortunately, last night. They have 3 shutouts over that span. An upcoming series is the Padres and Angels. So, Aidan, last couple series, what's your general thoughts?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I've seen is the offense is playing very, very well finally. They got off to a super, super slow start. However, there's been a lot of guys that are getting a lot better hits. Nick Castellanos drove in a couple of runs over the White Sox, even though he still has no home runs and is batting .184 and should not be in the 4-hole as he is in an upcoming game. But you got Alec Boehm, who's batting over 300. Turner's batting .327. So the offense is really coming through. And along with the pitching, which we'll get into, it's just looking a lot more consistent at this point in the season.
Shane, what would you like to?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Aidan said. I mean, you had that one game where Nick Castellanos went 3 for 4. He almost hit a home run, but hit it off the top of the wall and got a triple out of it. But yeah, I mean, the offense, that's what you do against teams like the Rockies and the White Sox, two of the worst teams in the league. And I mean, the White Sox only have about 3 wins, I think. But yeah, sorry, Aidan. But I mean, this is the type of thing where last year the Phillies, they wouldn't beat up on bad teams like that, and just things that have happened in the past to them as well. And just to see this again, just to see that to do what they're supposed to do against bad teams like that, and especially the starting pitching, 3 shutouts, 2 by Ranger Suarez, it's great to see.
Yeah. And going off of that, we had the next series was against the Reds. The first game went on to beat them 7-0. The next game, unfortunately, last night we lost 8-1. Riley, where do we go from here? Coming off of
Well, I think it's really good that they have been playing well. This is the first time they've reached a 7-game winning streak in April since 1953, and that alone says, like, as a team, we're evolving. I want to credit Ranger Suarez. He's a major factor in our scoring and how it's taking a part of the game. And then they also had Cody Clemens play, and I feel like he could possibly benefit the Phillies more. I feel like if we play him more than Castellanos right now, at least, it could benefit the Phillies, and they can do something. It's still pretty early on in the season, so we can see how that all works.
Yeah, as you said. And our upcoming games. Aidan, what do you expect with our upcoming games here against the Padres and Angels?
Yeah, so these are going to be 2 tough series. The Angels aren't great, but they're still around 500. The Padres are one of the better teams in baseball right now, and these are a really far West Coast trip. It's really hard to go on these early West Coast trips, especially when they haven't been on the road, and they already have a series on the road against Cincinnati. So you've got 3 consecutive series all away. Eventually, you do come back home after that, but I really want to see how they play on the road early on in the season.
Yeah, and with that being said, moving on, we're going to standings. Our NL East standings right now, the Braves are in first, 16-9. You have the Phillies, who are in second, which is great to see, who are right there next to them, 15-9. You have the Mets, 12-11, Nationals in fourth, and Marlins, we know, is horrible as usual. Shane, who would you say, besides the Braves, obviously, is the biggest threat to the Phillies?
I guess, I mean, if we're going with the division, I would say the Mets. I mean, they got off to a slow start to the season, and then they kind of picked it up against the Dodgers, and I forget who they were playing before that. But, I mean, they were winning those games, and they took the series from the Dodgers 2-1. So, I mean, and then recently they've been on a slide against the Giants. So, I mean, I would say the Mets if we're going with division-wise. So,
And Riley, something to add off that?
I agree with that. And then talking about the Braves, if we played an equal amount of games as Atlanta, we could be at that number 1 spot. But considering how we do play them, it's never like we're definitely going to lose, we're definitely going to win kind of game. So I feel like later on in the season, the standings are going to go back and forth a lot with the Phillies and the Braves. Hopefully the Phillies can stay strong and not go any lower than what they are. But that being said, I feel like it's a pretty foreseeing lineup. And
Yeah, would you guys say overall we're happy with where the Phillies are at this point in the season?
Yeah, I would say I'm very happy where the Phillies are at this point in the season. I mean, usually they get off to really slow starts in April, and last year they weren't even around 500 until June. So the fact that they're already playing winning baseball is a really good sign. The fact that the bats are getting back together, like I said, is a really good sign. The fact the pitching's where it's at is a good sign. So there's a lot of really good things that we're seeing with the Phillies at this point.
Okay, and going off that, now we're going into this really hot start the pitching has had. I mean, the Phillies, a combined record of 11-7. Every pitcher has an ERA of under 3.25. And Spencer Turnbull and Ranger Suarez, who are both 6-0, have been off to a great start. They both have an ERA under 1.50. Shane, what do you have to say about this?
yeah, I mean, Ranger Suarez can be a Cy Young candidate at the end of the year. I mean, I think he could probably win it. I'm also, like I said earlier, he had out of the 3 shutouts between the Rockies and the White Sox, he had 2 of them, and then he had another shutout against the Reds. So yeah, just the way he's pitching, and he was able to have spring training this year. He wasn't there last year because of visa problems and stuff like that. So he got off to a slow start last year. But yeah, him and Turnbull have been really good.
Yeah, and Aidan, like we said, Turnbull, who coming off not so great heart in 2023, he had Tommy John surgery with the Lions, Detroit Lions, and now he's performing great. How do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited for Turnbull. What does disappoint me is that Taijuan Walker is announced that he's going to be coming back, and Rob Thompson said that Turnbull's probably going to get moved to the bullpen. I think that's a mistake. I think Christopher Sanchez really struggled against the Reds, and if anyone should be moved out of the rotation, it should be the guy that struggled in the most recent start. Obviously, Turnbull could falter down the stretch, but at this point, I would say stick with your hot hands and figure out a way to put Taijuan in, maybe as a 6-man, maybe out of the bullpen. I know that you're paying him so much money, but I think you just got to keep going. The guys are playing well, and to tinker with it, I think, would be a mistake.
Yeah, and Riley, is there anything end off with the pitching? I
feel like the pitching is doing really good this season. It's better to figure out how the pitching can elapse early on in the season. Like I said, like they were doing it during spring training. But comparing it to where we are right now, having like the pitching pretty much figured out, I feel like it leads us in a good standing.
Yeah, and now next we're going on and talking about the Sixers, who, bit of an interesting topic right now. Let's start off with they beat the game against the Heat 105-104 in the playing game, which is great to see. But unfortunately, first 2 games of the series against the Knicks, lose game 1 and lose game 2. Guys, who wants to talk about it first? Should we talk about the game last game?
Yeah, I'll be the one to start.
Riley start.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the first game they played with the Knicks. It was definitely like we were doing really good the first 2 quarters. It was really good, and then Embiid had his fall after his amazing play, so that definitely made us all a little nervous. So, but he did come out a little towards the end of the third, so that was good seeing that. But Batum, he played really well that game, and then now game 2 for the Knicks, that one just made me mad. And then now everyone's seeing the refs, how they called certain fouls just now when it's not relevant. They're just seeing how they didn't foul, and it isn't a good look for us. It's not a good look for the refs, but definitely if they did call the fouls, we would have been playing better, and it would have been a better game than the losses that they had.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we should also talk about the Heat game. Yeah. That was the first game to talk about. Aidan, do you want to elaborate off that?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I saw this Heat game is that there was a couple of guys. I mean, Maxey played pretty well. Embiid played well. Nick Batum was awesome. And it was so good to see him finally play well, and then he's done nothing in these first 2 games against the Knicks, which, to me, that makes sense. It's a role player that stepped up. The issue is that none of the other role players have stepped up. I mean, Kelly Oubre's been awful in the postseason. He scored 11, 10, and 4 points in the 3 playoff games. That's not acceptable for the guy that's considered a fringe 3 player, especially with Tobias Harris playing the way that he is, which is average, which, again, makes sense for Tobias Harris. So guys need to start stepping up besides Maxey and Embiid. And besides Batum in that playing game against Heat, nobody's done it.
Exactly. Like, as you said, I mean, our last game, Maxey, 35 points. Embiid, 34 points. And you have Tobias Harris, who had 10 points. No one else had above 10 points in that game. It was a low-scoring game. If someone just stepped up a little bit, we win that game. So as everyone said, I feel like something we've talked about lots of times, we need someone else to step up. And do we think anyone will step up? I'm sort of leaning no. Riley, what do you think?
We talked about this before. We mentioned some people who could possibly, but I feel like as late as we are in the season and we're already 0-2, I feel like they should have found that person already. So seeing that now, if Batum steps up again, that'll be great. If Oubre steps up, amazing. If Harris steps up, incredible. But right now, it's definitely unquestionable.
Yeah, it's got to be Kelly Oubre, Harris. Either one of those guys really needs to play well for the Sixers to finally get a win over the Knicks.
Yeah, and let's talk about our stars. I mean, Nick Batum, the 20-point game he had in the first game, which was great to see. Unfortunately, nothing else from him. But, I mean, of course, the two guys, Embiid, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists in the first game, and then 35 points next game, or 34 points next game. Maxey, 35 points, 9 rebounds, and 10 assists in our last game. I mean, one thing we do know is we have our two guys. That is a solidified position on the team. We have our two guys. It's that third option. And unfortunately, there's no one else. I mean, we have to hope that a Batum or maybe a Oubre steps up for a game. But like guys like Buddy Hield. I mean, Aidan, where's guys like Buddy Hield? Where is he?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, they traded all these stuff at the trade deadline to get Hield, to get Campaign. These were supposed to be the guys that stepped up, and neither of them have done it. You see a couple of these guys shooting threes. That's about all they can do. And when you look at this tape with Maxey, he played unbelievable. And what happened at the end of the game was a complete disgrace to the NBA. They did a 2-minute review, said that Maxey had possession of the ball, as you see in this clip right there. He's got possession. The fact that they didn't call that disgrace, and the Sixers should have won this game, Maxey should have been given a lot more credit. And I even see Knicks fans saying that Maxey got, a little bit of a bad call against him, which is crazy for a playoff game.
I know. That was, we can say, it was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime thing and a freak thing. It was horrible for all Philly fans. I know we're all very upset. At least now we've had a day to calm down about it. But let's move on to the rest of the Eastern Conference in the playoffs. I mean, some really, really great games here. I mean, Celtics up 1 over the Heat. Knicks 2-0 against us. We won't talk about that. Cavs 2-0 against the Magic. And Bucks and Pacers are tied. So, Riley, what do you think is the best series so far besides ours?
I'm just going to say the Celtics and the Heat because it's pretty predictable. I'm pretty sure we all know who's going to win that series. It's going to be the Celtics. But it's also good to see. I feel like we're pretty equally matched with the Heat. So how the Heat plays and then comparing it to our game definitely says something about how they'll eventually, if they get, I'm not going to hop too forward ahead, but if they get the chance to play the Celtics, maybe they could look back how the Heat played, then go back to how they played the Heat, and go from there. But
Aidan, what would you say?
Yeah, I really love this Bucks-Pacers series. Tyrese Haliburton, I think, has been an awesome player the entire year, and he's showing why he deserves a spot on Team USA, even though a lot of people don't think that's the case. The other thing, too, is that it's sort of showing the Bucks' limitations. This is what we talked about when they hired Doc Rivers. The Bucks are not played the same way in the second half of the year as they did in the first half. And I think it shows that if the Celtics can win the series, I think that they have a really easy run into the Eastern Conference Finals, and especially into the finals overall. So I think this just shows that there's a lot of matchups in the bottom half, but it's so top-heavy with just the Celtics that I just don't see any team that could possibly beat them. And that shows some really bad signs for the Sixers.
That does, because with that being said, let's go into upcoming games. Besides, let's forget about this series. Let's say, hypothetically, right now we do. Celtics, can we beat them? Is there a shot? You guys, what do we think?
I want to say yes, but I know it's very possible to not win. So I'm going to say yes in good faith.
It's no. The answer is right. I'm sorry. The answer is a straight no. And the reason for that, look, the biggest thing for me, and this is what we're seeing in this Knicks series, no one can stop the Knicks guards from scoring. Both Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson are averaging over 20 points per game. Tatum is better than both of these guys, and we have no defensive guard. And I'm sorry. I know, Riley, that you were a big fan of Jalen, who's the guy that's on the Celtics?
Springer.
Jaden Springer. Yeah, see, his name's not even relevant. The Celtics are so good, and Jaden Springer's not even getting playing time. If that's the person that we think would be the defensive guard to stop anyone, I'm sorry, that's just not the case. I love Maxey as an offense player. He can't play defense. We don't really have, Oubre has not shown up either. So no, we cannot beat the Celtics. I thought we were going to beat the Knicks, and I don't even think that's the case anymore.
I know, it's unfortunate. Well, now it's being said, the next game, where do we go from here? Aidan, what do you think?
Yeah, the biggest thing, like I said, you got to play better defense than the way they've been. I also think that you have to find other guys to rely on off the bench. It's really hard to do that at this point because, like we said, the bench has been so inconsistent. But I think that Nick Batum showed enough that you could start giving him the ball in the corner, maybe planning around trying to get him open. Maxey and Embiid are playing really well off each other, but you got to make sure that Embiid stays healthy too. So there's a lot of things that they need to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially one thing with me, I think especially defensively and scoring more, someone's got to step up. And yeah, someone's really has to step up. We hope in Oubre, we hope a Heald. We've really not seen Heald at all during the series. And like you said, we trade for him, campaign. Someone please step up. With that being said, we're going to our last segment and talk about the Eagles in the draft. We have first-round pick here. We have the 22nd overall pick. We have the 50th overall pick in the second round, and another second-round pick, which is the 53rd. But then we have a fourth round, which is 120th, and then a fifth. We have 3 fifth rounds and a sixth-round pick. Aidan, with our first overall pick at 22nd overall, where do you think we're going?
I really think we're going defense. I didn't know this until today, but apparently there's a split about whether the Eagles should go offense or defense. They've drafted so many people on the offensive line. They already have your quarterback. You've re-signed Devontae Smith. You got to go defense. I think they're going to go cornerback. There's a list of a couple guys that I'm seeing, but I think that's where the Eagles are probably going to go.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think we're probably on the corner side of things, especially like Nate Wiggins. He's a very good corner out of Clemson, but also, Aidan, today there's been lots of trade talks about potentially moving up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I am very interested with some of these trades that the Eagles could do. And this is something that Howie Roseman has done a lot as the Eagles general manager, is he moves around during draft day. The Eagles are at 22nd, but you have 8 picks in 7 rounds. You could package some of these deals to move up to 13. That's something that, or even a little bit higher. 13 to 15 is probably the highest they can trade up, being at 22nd. But that's something that is option. They also have the option to trade down if they feel like they could get someone out of that. So I'm interested to see what the Eagles do.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see with the trade. My one thing about trading is what is it going to cost to trade up? I don't really want to get rid of one of our second-round picks, and that could be a thing we have to give up to move up. Because with one of our second-round picks, I mean, that's a chance where we take maybe a linebacker or something else. I know we want to talk about that. With our second-round picks, who do you think we should take? A linebacker or a lineman? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm scared about drafting a linebacker second round. It's something you could do. Jeremiah Trotter is someone that's very high on everyone's draft list, especially wish list. If you're an Eagles fan, his dad was a star linebacker in the early 2000s. The thing is that the way that Trotter is projected is around 101st. The Eagles don't really have any picks after the 50th. So what they could do is trade down, and that way it makes sense to draft them. They could also move up from the 120th to move up to around the 90th in the third round, draft them there. The thing is that I don't want to draft guys solely based off the fact that we're fans of his family. And Trotter's a great player, don't get me wrong, but I worry that we're doing too much maneuvering if that's where we're trying to go.
I would agree, and I think, honestly, there's probably better linebackers. I am a fan of Trotter, obviously. He has a good connection with the Eagles, but I mean, I'm a big fan of Peyton Wilson at NC State, and Edgerrin Cooper has been a real big guy at Texas A&M. I think those two would be I think they are the better linebackers in the class, and I think, would they be suited for the Eagles more? I don't really know. Maybe Trotter would be better, especially given his family background. But I really thinking, do you think, Aidan, that is there another trade? We've had lots of trades last year, DeAndre Swift, and then A.J. Brown in years past. Do you think a trade is going to happen at all, player-wise, not pick?
Yeah, it's something that could happen. I just don't really see it happening. I feel like that really what we need to go for is younger guys. The Eagles are one of the more veteran teams at this point. They've got 2 cornerbacks that are over the age of 30. You've got running backs that are a little bit older. Even Saquon now is getting up in age, even though he's still in his mid-20s. I think that you want to go younger. You need to sort of develop the talent that you have, and that's something the Eagles really haven't shown that they can do, is develop talent in recent drafts. So that's something I want to see if they can try to work on more in this draft compared to the last couple of drafts.
I agree. We'll see if any more Georgia Bulldogs gets drafted. I know we're historic in that, and there's a few guys in there. But like Aidan said, especially about developing guys, and I think especially developing linemen. I mean, obviously now with Jason Kelsey leaving, and then soon Lane Johnson, he's up there in age. We're going to have to replace these guys, and I think this is a great time than ever. There's tons of amazing tackles and guards in this class that we can get with one of the two of the first. We can either get with our first round pick if we want, maybe we want corner instead, but with one of our second round picks, there's going to be someone there that we can develop, and Eagles are fantastic about developing players. Just look at Jason Kelsey, an example. No one knew who he was. We developed one of the best centers, the best center of all time. So yeah, I mean, with our later picks, I'm not really looking at anything in particular. Maybe a tight end. What do you think, Aidan? For later in draft, what are you thinking?
Yeah, tight end's definitely something they could go for. I would also like to maybe add another wide receiver just for depth. Those are the two biggest needs that I feel like offensively. You could always go for another quarterback late. That's something the Eagles have been known to do rather than signing a guy in free agency. The contracts are cheaper. You get them for a rookie deal for 4 years. And it's something you could keep as an option. I would say that definitely offensive line you're probably going to be looking at. That's something the Eagles have been historically known to draft, as Brayden pointed out. So there is a ton of different options here. The great thing for the Eagles is they don't have any glaring needs. It's just sort of guys that have struggled in the last couple of years that you might want to replace coming up, if not this season, definitely next season. So that's sort of what this draft, I feel like. It's not to make or break a Super Bowl run. They already have enough talented players to go on a run, even though last year didn't work out the way we wanted it to. I think, though, that developing this year's talent, it needs to happen. And I know you said that the Eagles are great developing talent. They just hasn't worked out recently.
Yeah, and now with one of our favorite segments, we're going to Fast Five, and with the first one, talking baseball, Shane Nolan.
Well, sporting officials, that's been talked about a lot over the past couple of days. In the Yankees and Athletics game the other day, Aaron Boone had something to say to home plate umpire Hunter Whittlestat over a check swing. And right after Hunter Whittlestat said something to Boone, Boone stopped. He stopped talking. And then behind him, a Yankee fan right behind the Yankees dugout, screamed something to the home plate umpire, and Hunter Whittlestat threw out Aaron Boone for it. For Aaron Boone not even saying anything. And after the game, Hunter Whittlestat said that he just heard something over by the dugout, and he just had to throw Aaron Boone out because he was the manager of the Yankees. No accountability is being taken by these umpires at all. And if a player criticizes them, a coach criticizes them, they get fined for it. But these umpires don't get anything, and it's ridiculous that this is a thing that's happening. I mean, you have Angel Hernandez, C.B. Buckner. These are all horrible umpires. It's just ridiculous.
Thank you, Shane. And our favorite segment, it really is. And next, can the Lakers beat the Nuggets? Riley.
Okay, so the Lakers just played a nice game against Denver, but unfortunately Denver did dominate towards the end with Murray shooting right over AD with 2 seconds left in the game, and which led the Lakers to lose the game. But there is definitely some elite competition happening with both teams, and this is a hot take, but after this series, whoever comes out on top is going to win the West, is what I think.
That is a very big take. And next, we have Aidan.
Yes, so the Los Angeles Dodgers made a lot of really big signings this offseason, the biggest one definitely being Shohei Ohtani, and they just have not played very good baseball at this point. Ohtani struggled out of the gate. They've just been playing around 500 baseball, and that's leading to a lot of people to ask, are they overrated? My answer to that is no. It just takes these teams to get going. Look, we saw this with the Phillies, where they made a ton of signings in 2021. The team got off to a super slow start. Everyone was saying, oh, we got to trade Schwarber, trade Castellanos, and they went on a run to the World Series. The Dodgers have the talent to do it. And the thing that I see the most is that Tyler Glasnow, who's one of their biggest, most underrated signings, he's been awesome pitching for them, especially in his last couple of starts. So if the pitching can get it together, you got Ohtani's bat. He just needs to hit in Los Angeles because he's only hitting home runs right now on the road. If they can get this all together, they'll be perfectly fine. It just needs to happen, and I think it will, but around June is where you got to start to worry a little bit.
Yeah, and then picking off that, who's the best team in baseball, Shane?
To me, I hate to say this, but it's the Atlanta Braves. I mean, they're missing Ozzie Albies right now, their second baseman. He's been out. Matt Olson hasn't gotten off to a hot start. Austin Riley hasn't gotten off to a hot start. And they lost Spencer Strider to Tommy John surgery. He's going to have to get Tommy John surgery. He's out for the season. But, I mean, their pitching staff hasn't been that great, but they have gotten offense. Maybe not from their biggest stars right now, but each time they are down like 5-0 or 7-0, they seem to just all of a sudden hit home runs and just win the game in like the 8th or 9th inning or whatever. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Aidan, who do you think is best team baseball?
Yeah, I want to say the Braves, although I'm going to go with the team that actually has the actual best record in the Cleveland Guardians. Josh Naylor might be an underrated pick right now for MVP. He's got 6 home runs, 20 RBIs, and he's batting over 300. The pitching, they have a lot of wins. Their ERA's not great, but they play in a somewhat weak division with the Royals and Tigers being the only teams to have over 500 records. And then you also got the White Sox who, look, we've mentioned them enough on the show. They're awful. They're a disgrace to baseball. Jerry Reinsdorf needs to sell the team. With that being said, Cleveland could go on a really good run. Obviously, you played a lot less division rivals with the way the schedule's laid out now. But I do think that the way Cleveland's playing, if they can keep it going, if the pitching staff can get their runs down, they're going to be totally fine.
Yeah, and next, our last thing is the Union. The last couple of games, Union, we tied against Atlanta United, but then we won against Nashville. Now, yes, we did tie, but we are also 6th place in the standings, but we're still the only team that's undefeated in the entire MLS. It's something to worry about. It's like the beginning of the year when we were tying a bunch of games. Yes, we're looking bad kind of in the standings, but we're still early on into the season. It does not matter. And to pick off of that, in our standings, we are behind by 5th through 2nd. We're behind by 2 points. Or we haven't played they played 2 more games than us. And in first place, Miami, they played 3 more games than us. So we've not played as many games as these guys, and we're not even 2 points behind them. So it's really nothing to worry about. And then going forward, I mean, we just have to watch. We just have to watch, especially top of the box and scoring. We've been bad about giving up goals, and especially against teams that can score. In Atlanta, I mean, they're one of the best offensive teams in the league. So of course we're going to give up goals. Good news is we can score, and we're good about that. But also we've been really good about late goals. But yeah. So with that being said, thank you for sorry. This is my God. That was a horrible ending. Sorry. Thank you for another episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia. Oh my God! Thank you for this. Follow us on social media at X Sports Talk LTV and Instagram Sports LTV. Thank you, and goodbye.